we need to talk about this end of year Yu-Gi-Oh! Roundup. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it is your host with the most, Avery LR32 here, and destroy the ever-living white wall boo-boo stain. Ugh. As we climb even higher, the 1500 ladder. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're having a fantastic day. Obviously, we are in a bit of a different setup here. Yeah, that's the TV and my gaming setup, at least my headset. I've had to move my PlayStation 5 a couple of times to try and get better internet, but I'm actually on vacation right now for the holiday season, Christmas and all that, so I'm actually not going to be in town for quite a while. So there's still going to be content that I'm going to be trying to film on my iPhone here to put up and all that, but if it doesn't seem like it's highly edited stuff, that's why. I also need to figure out if it's even worth it to hold an iPhone 16 Plus while trying to film a 10 plus minute long video. But I want to quickly dive on into the roundup of Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2024. How good or how bad was it? And of course, we had to jump in the shower first to kind of think about the format and get some ideas rolling in our noggin. But I think overall, 2024 Yu-Gi-Oh! Will not be a format that will be missed. I don't think 10 years from now, this is going to be a format that people are going to look back on and say, you know, it really wasn't that bad of a format. I think people are going to think, yeah, this format was absolutely terrible. And so I think that moving forward, I think that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to get a lot better. I think 2025, honestly, is going to be some great Yu-Gi-Oh! Because when you look at Rizal as a deck, it's basically just a glorified control deck that if you're playing a Fiendsmith package, costs $1,200. But keep in mind that Snake Eye Fiendsmith at its peak a few months ago was $1,100. So they're around the same ballpark in that regard. Of course, we didn't have all the Mulch armies that we do now, and then post Rage of the Abyss with the Azamina support. Obviously, now Snake Eyes has been hit hard with OSS being banned and Yubel getting the hit to Phantom. The deck isn't as good. They obviously did it to sell crossover breakers. But besides the point, those decks have been hit a good bit. But besides the point, I think that a lot of the frustrations that people have with this format is going to die down a little bit once we kind of get in the swing of things for 2025, especially once we get Supreme Darkness, we get the new hero support, and people realize, hey, wait, there's other decks that you're able to play, right? It's no longer just Snake Eyes or Yubel. You have other things that you can play. But with 2024 Yu-Gi-Oh!, you really didn't have that option. You know, it was either Yubel, Snake Eyes, or something with like 20 plus hand traps, or maybe you were playing Centurion with, you know, King Calamity. Keep in mind that King Calamity just got banned this year in 2024. And even though I finished 10th place twice with Centurion and Tenpai, I can acknowledge the fact that this was not the best year for Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, do I think that this is like one of the worst formats of all time? I think it's up there. But to be honest, in more of the modern age of Yu-Gi-Oh!, like within the past 3 or 4 years, there's another format that I would rather play in, and that would be Power of the Elements, which I think was 2022. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I'd rather play in that format right when we got Sprite and Tier Element, and I'm sure some people are going to say, well, every Tier Element was at full power and blah, 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 but we didn't have Magnificent Mavens at that point. And yes, later on down the line, Tier Element did absolutely get insane with Kelbeck and Aigido and all that other fun stuff. But to go back to that time where Sprite was at full power and Tier Element was at full power pre-Magnificent Mavens, I think as crazy as those decks were, I think at the time, yeah, we also had things like D-Shifter at 3, and, you know, it wasn't as crazy then. You could use things like Shifter to stop Tier Element, and it was just, I don't know, it was a really fun time. And do I think that that's going to be a format that maybe people go back to in a couple of years? Yeah, I do, but I don't think that that's going to happen with everything that's happened in 2024 Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially even Tenpai. And I know that Tenpai is a bit of a soft spot for a lot of players in the community because it was like Tenpai was basically like a budget deck that was also really good because you could throw in like 20 hand traps and call it a day. And now that the deck's been hit, people are upset because it's like, well, they're just trying to push Supreme Darkness and crossover breakers. And that is true. Tenpai was a very strong deck that needed to be hit. At the same time, though, you look at the decks that are available to play moving into the new format, which is a lot, but Rizal and Malice, I would argue, do stand head and shoulders above them. However, things like Rizal, unlike Snake Eye Fiendsmith at their full power, can actually lose to one hand trap. You Ash a Duo Drive, what are they going to do? End on a detonator? Okay, cool. Droplets, Imperm, Ultimate Slayer, Xyz Encore, etc., etc. You have these options available to you, and that's honestly fantastic. Are they playing a lot of hand traps right now? Yes. Is that going to change down the road? I don't think so because of how the TCG player base is. They like to play a lot of hand traps. But there is always that possibility going into 2025 that we could become more like the OCG, where they're playing on average like 11 to 13 hand traps and then playing some number of talents, cross out droplets, what have you. So there is that possibility. And yes, I know the OCG got a new ban list. I do want to talk about that at some point as I try to swap hands here without shaking the camera. I'm not used to just holding this big ass iPhone in my hand. But is this the worst format of all time? Now, keep in mind, and I know I've said this a million times, but I never know what new people are watching my content. I've been playing competitively since 2008, 2 weeks before they changed the name of the Fusion deck to the Extra deck. So that's how long I've been playing in all the formats I've seen. I've played Necros full power, Zodiac full power, Dragon Ruler full power, you name it, I've been there. And I think that in regards to 2024 overall, I don't see this as being the worst format of all time. I think out of my playing experience, that still goes to Teledad format. And keep in mind, when Phantom Darkness came out, it was insane. Dark Arms were secret rares only. We didn't have the printing that we do now, where like, core sets aren't short printed. We had that a lot back then. And it was also not Wizards of the Coast, whatever that company was that was running Yu-Gi-Oh! And doing the set distribution, the events and all that. We didn't even have YCS. They were called Shonen Jump Championships then. But Dark Arms were $250 a piece. And I think you were lucky to pull one out of one case, which is insane. And sure, you could play other decks. You didn't have to play Teleport Dark Arm, aka Teledad, with 3 Emergency Teleport, 3 Krebons, Kaias, 3 Dark Arms, Stardust Dragon, Colossal Fighter, Goyo Guardian, the list goes on and on. You could play things like Gladiator Beast, you could play things like Light Sworns, but you also, if you were playing Teledad, you wanted to try very hard to get your hands on I think it was $1,000 at the time, prize card. Now, would you want to pick up a deck that you were spending a boatload of money on just to be told, oh, hey, if you want to be guaranteed to top or win any event you go to, you got to pay $1,000, if not more, for a prize card in the form of Crush Card Virus? No, you do not, Sugar Boo Bear. Would you want to do that with gold sarcophaguses that were also a prize card at the time before they got put in the gold series sets? No, you don't. And that was also a crazy card at the time, because being able to banish a card and get it 2 turns later, that was how slow Yu-Gi-Oh! Was then. And sure, as a retro format, when you go back to it, yeah, it's fun because everything's cheap AF. But you go back to it in its prime, no, it's not, Sugar Boo Bear. It is horrible and it is toxic. And as a young lad like me who was trying to roll on in with what I called my attack deck, even though it was really just a glorified beatdown deck with giant orc and final attack orders and shit, nobody wants to do that. Especially if you have to pay $1,000 plus for something like a Crush Card Virus that was only a prize card before it finally got put in Turbo Pack. And even then it was $250 before it got banned. No one wants to deal with that. No one wants to have to buy a prize card just to be guaranteed that they'll win. You talk about pay to win, that's a format like that. But guys, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Overall, 2024 Yu-Gi-Oh! Was very insane. And I'm not going to miss it. And I'm very much looking forward to playing Rizal Fiendsmith in 2025, because my ass spent $1,200, and then I'll turn around and sell the deck at YCS Orlando just to play Blue Eyes for the next few months. Guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Hope you all have a great holiday season.